Go CFB, snap back on check. Got a little black tea on check. Welcome to another marvelous episode. On today's docket, we're going to talk about that coveted 2004 college football season, where if we had the current model, the 12-team playoff, we probably would have got one of the greatest seasons in college football history. And I think without that season, we aren't here where we are today. We never get to the 14 playoff and eventually the 12-team playoff, because when we look at the first ever BCS-busters that happened in this historic year, so many great players in this year of college football. Like, a lot of people know about Marshawn Lynch and what he did at Cal, and Aaron Rodgers and what he did at Cal, but a lot of people forgot about a great running back named J.J. Arrington, who went over 2,000 yards in that 2004 season. We seen Urban Meyer do his thing at Utah, and this is what ultimately led him to Gainesville, and how dope Alex Smith was. So that's on today's docket. Of course, we got our Into the News segment, so anybody who's missed any of the recent college football news, y'all know the governor got y'all. I'm going to take care of y'all any of the recent news. Also, we're going to look at something a little bit different. I typically react to a lot of popping things, whether it's college football playoff predictions, whether it's, top 5 for stuff going into the 2026 NFL draft. But today, I'm going to kind of take a look at CBS did like bowl projections. They did college football playoff, but I want to kind of pay attention to the bowl projections and look at some of the teams that they think they're going to be bowl eligible this year. I think we got quite a few surprises in there. And for our Around the Nation segment, we are going to look at quite a few things during our Around the Nation segment. We are going to look at my apologies. We're going to look at, what are we looking at for the Around the Nation segment? I forgot that fast. What are we looking at? Around the Nation, we're going to look at the Big Ten deal, the Big Ten, Big 12 partnership with PayPal. I forgot what we were looking at for that. That was something that arrived in my email today. I truly do love being a credentialed member of the media. You get so much like information and intel, and I know a lot of people have covered the story already, but that I got an email directly from the Big 12 into my inbox, so we're going to go over that. So we got a jam-packed show. I'm excited for it. Governor College Football, hashtag go CFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ
great defensive minds. They have to be better on that side of it. Today is Thursday, June 26th. It's been a pretty marvelous day for me. Just got finished doing College Football Showdown not that long ago, and of course we live with this, Governor College Football. We live. If this is your first time ever seeing this show, we are live every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 p.m. In season, we will be live at 10 or 11 p.m. depending how soon we wrap up our day, because we will be live, and wherever we go, I'll be going live at least for one episode, every week on a Saturday, and it'll be late night kind of recapping the day. So I do plan on doing that. So that's 5 times a week. We're giving you guys our episodes. I look forward to doing more episodes of College Football Showdown with my boy Jalen, Overreaction Monday that I do with Nino and D now. And then me and Moon, Moon's been working like me. He's been putting the work in, giving, great content. His Boise State deep dive was crazy yesterday. Shout out to Brian Browning, somebody who watches a bunch of our content overall at the CFB Nation. He was impressed with that, so shout out to Moon for bringing you guys that content. But let's get into the news. We got Tommy Castellanos versus the Tide Part 3, and I had a feeling this would get this way. If you're a fan of college football and you went to Alabama, you don't feel disrespected by Tommy Castellanos, I feel like you have a reason to. So Mark Ingram fires back. Florida State quarterback Tommy Castellanos set the internet ablaze with his recent jab at Alabama, declaring the Clemson Tide vulnerable without Nick Saban ahead of their Week 1 showdown. The bold words didn't just take up the Alabama fan base, they reached national audience. Now Mark Ingram, former Heisman winner and Alabama great, has officially entered the chat. And this is getting real interesting. Mark Ingram wasn't a fan of what he had to say at all. Under no level was he a fan of what Tommy Castellanos had to say. And quite frankly, he said, hey, let him talk. If he wants to talk, let him talk. And I'm telling you, Alabama is going to be ready. I promise you they'll be ready. We got a lot of interesting things coming up this college football season. And the fact that people are talking and the college football media, things travel much more quickly now than it ever did before. So I'm happy to see it. Mark Ingram didn't like these words. He didn't mince his words at all. And I'm happy to see it. I'm here for it. This is what college football is all about. It's about rivalries, and Florida State and Alabama is not a rivalry at all. But the fact that, Tommy Castellanos gave them bulletin board material, gave him a reason to want to come out and dominate week 1. It's going to be pretty spectacular. In other news, Texas State is likely headed to the the Pac-12, and I'm not happy with the treatment of people and their, with respects to the Pac-12. I think people are being over-analytical with the Pac-12. I don't think Teresa Gold has gotten enough credit for what she's been able to do and how she's been able to expand that conference and make them relevant again. Shout out to Oregon State and Washington State for staying put and wanting to stay inside of the Pac-12. But the fact of the matter is there are a lot of people in mainstream media. I know Paul Feinbaum is one of them. He just said he doesn't think they'll be able to be relevant again. I think the fact that they battled back from the dead, and we all know like that I'm still alive thing where a lot of people who get shot, they play that, or they play like Mini Men by 50 Cent. But the fact that they are back from the dead, I think is incredible. Teresa Gold has done a fantastic job as the commissioner of the Pac-12. She's making them relevant again, and I believe that they can get even more schools in 2030 when it's a little bit easier for Cal and Stanford to leave the ACC. I don't think naturally they've ever been a fit, if we're being honest, even though it was just in year 1. So I think they got something to offer, and the fact that they get in Gonzaga and basketball, that may pique some other teams' interest as well. So shout out to Teresa Gold, shout out to the Pac-12. I think Texas State is a huge get because we all know what this thing is about. It's about being in various locations, being able to have different start times for games and things of that nature. So it'd be interesting to see how this Pac-12 thing turns out. So I'm happy to hear this. It seems like every day on this show we're talking about Arch Manning. I don't know if people are kind of clickbaiting with using his name or because he's buzzing. A lot of people are searching his name every day. Arguably one of the most popular players in all of college football. But Dan Wetzel put it plainly. He said, how good is Arch Manning? The most anticipated starting debut in modern college football history kicks off this fall. With Arch Manning, the media cartel, the Arch Manning media cartel is going to be real this season. I think Steve Sarkisian's got one hell of a team down in Austin this season as well. And a lot of people just want to truly know how good he is. I know the old ball coach, Steve Spurrier, questioned how good Arch Manning was. He's like, well, if he was this good, why didn't he start season ago? I just think he waited his turn. And we live in an era where everybody wants instant success. They want the Jeremiah Smith. They want the Ryan Williams. They want that instant success. They want to be an instant starter. Well, the old way of doing it, I don't think Arch Manning nor the Mannings were against doing it. Hey, let's truly learn the system, trust the system, and be able to teach the system. And now he fully understands Sarkisian's system. I think he's in a really good spot. And don't just assume that he's going to enter his name into the 2026 NFL draft. He just may, but if there's a team there picking at number 1 and he has a feeling that they're going to pick him, he could just go back. He could just come back to Austin for another year and enter the 2027 NFL draft. We know how the Mannings play. They make power moves. I think they were confident when Peyton went to Indianapolis. They were confident when Eli, leaving Ole Miss. There was thoughts that he'll be handed to San Diego. He ended up heading to New York, to the Big Apple, playing in a big market, and was able to win a couple of Super Bowls. And he beat Tom Brady not once but twice. So I think Arch Manning is going to be spectacular. I don't think he'll be nothing short but spectacular. So it'll be interesting to see that. In other news, we got Lee Corso farewell. There are some people in the Lee Corso's family who, Dan Corso, his son specifically, thought it was disappointing that for Corso, that it should have been made about Corso, and that, while Texas and Ohio State have top billing that day, I personally believe that LSU and Clemson, the Battle of Death Valley, is going to be a more intriguing game. But, Alabama and Florida State is going to be a damn good game. And they kind of wanted Lee Corso's farewell to be at home for him, which is Florida State, down in Tallahassee. So family called the decision disappointing. Even the family remains proud of his legacy. FSU hasn't hosted a game day since 2014, despite a rich history and Lee Corso's deep ties. So it'll be, I think it'll still be good. Everybody will be teared up. If you've been watching College Game Day for years and see him do it, well, I don't think it'll be his official last time, but his last time as a reoccurring, personality on the show. I think it'll be his last time. We may see him be a special guest picker or something like that. But to see him put that on last time, I don't care where I'm at. I will be watching it. Week 1, we have a lot of things planned. We're going to like 5 games that week. 5 games week 0 as well. Moon's got us on one hell of a crash course. I know D now has got me going to a game week 1 as well. So definitely going to be getting them frequent flyer miles, to be honest with you guys. But I'm going to watch him. I'm going to watch College Game Day, of course, that day. And watch him pick that last head gear. Like I said, you're not a human being, or you're not a true fan of the sport if you don't have tears in your eyes. I promise you're not a true fan of the sport if you don't have tears in your eyes. So I can't wait for that. Brett Bielema calls out UGA. I like this era of college football we're headed in. There's so much tampering that's going on. There's so much impermissible contact with players that's going on. And there's no true way to stop it because we don't have anything in black and white that says, hey, you cannot do this. We know it's a known thing that you can't do it. But what is the NCAA going to do about it? That's why we truly need this commission to say, if you violate these rules and you are caught doing this, you will be penalized. You will lose scholarships. We may delay your spring camp. We may delay your fall camp. Anything to make teams stop doing this. Brett Bielema, I'm a huge fan of Brett Bielema. He called Georgia flat out. He said his star running back Josh McCray entered the portal and landed at Georgia within 12 hours. This is crazy for somebody to enter the portal 12 hours later. They're at a school already. This is that impermissible contact. And I expected Bielema to call them out straight out. He kind of left it with a little bit of an ambiguity, if that makes sense. Like, there's kind of no way that, he entered the portal and he ended up in Georgia in 12 hours. I wanted Bielema to be more direct. Hey, there's no way in hell this guy who plays for the team in Champaign, Illinois, enters the portal. 12 hours later, he's in Athens without impermissible contact. I wanted him to be more direct. Now, I get it. Kirby Smart is respected. The Georgia brand is respected. So I think he left that room for ambiguity and wanted us as media members to kind of take it and say it for him. I'm going to say it for him. He said they were tampering without saying that they were tampering. He left the room for ambiguity there. He 100% did. But I like the fact that he kind of called them out, if you want to say that he called them out. But, at the end of the day, impermissible contact is impermissible contact. If a player is not in a portal and a team reaches out to you, like, hey, you think about joining the portal? No, I wasn't. Maybe you should come down to Georgia. We'll be in contention for a national title this year, even though I think Illinois will be in the college football playoff this year. We can get you more money. We kind of understand your contract in Champaign, but, hey, we got more money down here in Athens, and we got bigger resources, and you're going to play on nationally televised games pretty much week in and week out. Yeah, I'm going to Georgia. That's exactly what happened. It was impermissible contact. It is what it is. So Clemson, we saw that they had removed the player off their team, top 200 national recruit Marquise Henderson. I think he ended up in a really good fit. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Liberty. I do expect him to be the G5, championship, the team that's playing the highest rated, G5 team, the team that's playing the college football playoff. My only concern with that statement is the fact that they play such a weak schedule that if somebody else is close to them or only trails them by one game, where would they rank both of these teams? If let's say the other team is Boise State, and Boise State had a tougher road than Liberty had. But I like the fact that Marquise Henderson is entering there. I can't wait to hear the news during fall camp to see how he's doing there, and I can't wait to go see him play this year. I like Liberty a lot, and I truly expect them to do big things this upcoming season. So that's our Into the News segment. Let's go ahead and move forward and get into our Governor React segment. Alrighty, Governor React. So this is CBS projected bowl games, and how do I react to this list? Now, I thought this was really interesting because, like I said, most times we just look purely at the playoff games. Haven't seen a lot of bowl projections, but this kind of gives me an idea of where CBS sees teams at and how they evaluate teams. So the first bowl they have is the Hawaii Bowl. They have Air Force versus Liberty. I'm high on Liberty. I think Liberty can be the top-rated G5 team and enter the college football playoff, but they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to be perfect, and they're going to have to win games by landslides. That's what's going to have to happen because of how easy their schedule is. The Boca Raton Bowl, this is a bowl game that we were all credentialed for last season. We didn't end up going, but it was Georgia Southern versus Western Michigan in that one. Interesting to see that Georgia Southern is bowl eligible. Interesting to see that Western Michigan is bowl eligible. Cure Bowl, we got James Madison versus Boise State. So this means that Boise State isn't their G5 selection. Liberty isn't their G5 selection. I believe their G5 selection for the college football playoff ended up being Navy. So we'll continue to go through this list and see what teams they have on here. But I like what we had so far. Hawaii Bowl, Air Force versus Liberty. Georgia Southern versus Michigan in the Boca Raton Bowl. In the Cure Bowl, we have James Madison versus Boise State. In the Arizona Bowl, we have San Jose State versus Northern Illinois. Congratulations to both teams. I think they'll be happy with bowl eligibility if both of these teams make it this year. Birmingham Bowl, we'll have Arkansas versus UCF. This one really took me by surprise. It really did. Not only do they have Arkansas, who I don't think Sam Pittman survives this year, and I've been a huge fan, kind of like a huge, somebody who believes in Sam Pittman for a very long time, and I said he should keep his job when in 2023, a lot of people said he should lose his job. I was one of the main people saying, no, he deserves to keep his job. So UCF, where are you at with Scott Frost? We know the success that he had during his first tenure there, but that was at the Group of 5 level. Now you have to do it with you have to do it in the Power 4, and I just think the Big 12 is just so good. I think the Big 12 is very good. This will be an interesting bowl game, not to say the least, just because of the storylines, but Arkansas making a bowl game, that's very surprising. Let's look at some more teams that probably don't end up making a bowl game. Bahamas Bowl, we got Western Kentucky versus Buffalo. I think both of them programs will probably be happy with that bowl game. Pinstripe Bowl, we got NC State versus Wisconsin. This is interesting. That means CBS is higher on Wisconsin than some people are. Wisconsin does have the toughest schedule in college football outside of the SEC teams that are up there. They're the only non-SEC team that's in the top 5, I think. And toughest schedules all of college football. So the fact we got Wisconsin making it, I think Luke Fickell will be happy with that. I think the fan base will be happy with that. And they'll be like, okay, the team from Madison is headed into the right direction. Okay, I think people will be okay with that. The Liberty Bowl, Kansas versus Missouri. This will be a really sexy bowl game. That'll be an extremely sexy bowl game. That means that Jalen Daniels and Lance Leopold and company got everything done they want to be done. Maybe Eli Drinkowitz and the Missouri fan base wouldn't be the happiest with this bowl game because that means they're somewhere probably around 75, and that's probably where this Liberty Bowl will get, 2 75 teams or a 6-6 team and a 75 team. So, overall, I don't think both teams would be mad. One bowl I'm extremely happy about, Los Angeles Bowl. We got Utah. Okay. Utah is back this year versus UCLA. I think UCLA will 100% be in a bowl game. As a matter of fact, I think they'll be one game better than bowl eligible. I truly believe in UCLA. I believe in Nico Iamaleava. I believe in Tino Sinceri as their offensive coordinator. I like that they got Mikey Matthews at wide receiver. I like this team a lot, and them being in the Los Angeles Bowl, I think Nico's going to put on this year. And something that I want everybody to watch this year, I bet if you ask a fan now who's going to win more games, UCLA or Tennessee, 10 out of 10 fans are probably going to say Tennessee, but I think they won the same amount of games this year. And if not the same amount of games, I'll probably edge UCLA. And I know fans in Knoxville are going to think I'm hating on them. I promise you I'm not hating on them. Josh Heupel won 8 or more games this year. Hats off to him. Might be his best coaching job ever. 68 Ventures Bowl. We got Fresno versus Louisiana. Not a bad matchup at all. Both of those teams bowl eligible. That's what's up. Alrighty. We got the New Mexico Bowl. We got UNLV versus Texas State. I think if UNLV's in the New Mexico Bowl, they're probably not happy. Texas State, they're in the New Mexico Bowl, they're not happy. I look at Dan Mullen, I look at J.G. Kinney. Both of these coaches got huge aspirations this upcoming season. I think both of these coaches got, hey, we're going to make the college football playoff this year. We can be the best Group of 5 school in all of college football. So I think, would they be happy they're in the bowl game? Probably. But I think both of these two programs have higher expectations this upcoming year. Salute to Veterans Bowl. We'll have Bowling Green versus Arizona State. Bowling Green, Eddie George, first year, making a bowl game. Great job, brother. This is why you went there. This is why Urban Meyer suggested that you go there. Bowling Green, year 1, out of the MAC, in a bowl game would be spectacular. I'll be so happy for Eddie George. And we are credentialed for every school in the MAC. It'll be dope if we can go to Bowling Green game this year. I'm sure my boy D now will probably show us around a little bit. That'd be really cool. In the Military Bowl, we'll have North Carolina versus Tulane. That'll be a really interesting game. That means Bill Belichick and company are at least bowl eligible or better. Versus Tulane, I would hope that both of these teams are 7-5 and better. That's probably would be my fair expectations for both of these games, to be honest with you guys. Wouldn't be mad at that at all. Game Above Sports Bowl. We have Minnesota versus Ohio. I'd be really happy for Ohio. A guy that I respect a lot, Tim Albin, is now down in Charlotte, and Charlotte is one of my sneaky teams, and I hope I see Charlotte on this list this year because I believe Connor Harrell and company is going to be one of those sneaky G5 teams. I'm not saying they're going to make the college football playoff as that G5 slot, but when you look at a team on your schedule to be wary of, watch out for the Charlotte 49ers. I promise you they will be better than advertised this upcoming year, and Tim Albin has a lot to do with that. I think he went down to Charlotte because of the weather. I think he went down to Charlotte because of his proximity to the ACC, and he probably feels that, hey, I'll go down here and do what I'm supposed to do. That's my way to the P4 level, and there are plenty of schools down there that would take a damn good coach like Tim Albin. Independence Bowl, we have BYU versus Oregon State. I think both of them programs I'm probably happy with that. I'm interested to see how well Malik Murphy plays in Corvallis this year. Interesting to see what happened with Retzlaff this year, if he ends up playing this year. We don't know what's going on with that. New Orleans Bowl, we got Jacksonville State versus Marshall. Jacksonville State should be happy to be here. Marshall, with the turnover that it's had this year, should be also happy to be here. Rich Rod has left Jacksonville State last year. They were one of the darlings of the Group of 5 level last season. Rich Rod is now back in Morgantown, who I'm showing on the screen, and you guys will see why I'm showing them on the screen here in a minute. The Idaho Potato Bowl, Miami of Ohio, who's been a staple in the MAC, versus Colorado State. Both of those programs should be extremely happy. Now we're starting to get into the really good bowl games. We got the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. We got TCU versus Iowa, sexy matchup. I think, what publication had Iowa going 6-6? Was it ESPN? I don't agree with that. I think they'll win at least 7 games, maybe 8 games this year, and 9 will probably be the ceiling for them. TCU, Sonny Dykes and them, that means that they're right on track. They're right where they need to be. The Fenway Bowl, Duke versus ECU. That's a really good bowl game for these two teams. Not too far from each other as far as like location. Two programs that are on a rise. I don't think Manny Diaz got enough credit for the job he was able to do after Mike Elko a season ago. I'd be happy to see that. The Myrtle Beach Bowl. We've been credentialed for the Myrtle Beach Bowl the last 3 years. Coastal Carolina being there is a staple versus USF. I think there'll be another team probably be disappointed, but would I be excited to go see Byron Brown and company and go down to Myrtle Beach and watch that game? Well, I think it's technically in Conway. That'd be pretty good to see. Armed Forces Bowl, Army versus Toledo. Okay. I think Toledo has higher aspirations this year. Well, we're doing a documentary with Toledo, by the way, this upcoming fall camp. I'm excited for that. Can't wait to report to where their fall camp is. I think if you're a company and you want to be a part of something, be a part of that series we're about to do, that docu-series we're about to do. I'm telling you, it's going to be major. It's going to be real big. Las Vegas Bowl, we got Nebraska versus Arizona State. That's a sexy matchup. That's a really sexy matchup. You got Matt Rule versus Kenny Dillingham. I think both teams have higher aspirations. Kenny Dillingham wants to become a blue blood in the Big 12. So would he be 100% happy with this game? Probably not, because he would want to, repeat and go back to the college football playoff. But this ain't a bad bowl game to be in. The Frisco Bowl, we're heading down to Frisco soon. UTSA, high aspirations for Sam Houston. I would be really happy for Phil Longo if he was in the Frisco Bowl this year. I really would be. Not that he was mistreated during his time in Madison as offensive coordinator for Wisconsin. It just never was a hand and glove fit. When you look at the system that Wisconsin has ran for a myriad of years now, and then look at, what Phil Longo like to do in the air raid. I can't wait to see how this Sam Houston offense looked with the air raid. Can't wait to use Phil Longo's playbook on College Football 26, because I always go with the air raid based playbook, just because that's the playbook that I know in real life. I have a real air raid playbook with over 200 plays that I created. First Responders Independent Bowl. So this is the Georgia Tech versus West Virginia. That means that year one, Rich Rod has been able to be Rich Rod in Morgantown. Georgia Tech, we had another program we're in close proximity to. We haven't made it to Morgantown yet, which is interesting, because we've been in Huntington, West Virginia. We went to a Marshall game last year. And when I tell you, there's always places that we go to, and I have these preconceived notions, prejudices, if we're being honest, and it completely blow my mind. Huntington, West Virginia was one of those places. Couldn't believe how nice the city was, how nice the people were. Their fans were so dope. It's just a nice place to be. I would love to go back there this year. Another one of those places is Mobile, Alabama. I had preconceived notions about Alabama and the things you hear growing up, and then getting down there and getting into Mobile and seeing how nice the weather was. The food was really good. The bar scene down there is really dope. I thoroughly enjoy going to the Senior Bowl. I haven't been the last 2 years because my schedule didn't allow me, but that's not happening this year because we're doing this thing full time. Gasparilla Bowl, that's another bowl that we are credentialed for. Auburn versus Memphis. Hugh Freeze and company in the bowl game. Be nice. This would be a sexy matchup too. I really like this matchup. Love the Georgia Tech versus West Virginia matchup as well. I think we got two coaches whose identity is running the ball. They just got different ways of doing it. One more from a physical perspective. The other one from more of a finesse spread. Now you see it, now you don't type of perspective. So that'll be pretty cool. Texas Bowl, Baylor versus Texas A&M. Mike Elko, year 2, another bowl eligible. Not in a bad bowl game at all, but I have higher aspirations for Baylor. Baylor can absolutely win the Big 12 this year. Baylor can be a college football playoff team. I truly believe that. That's not just something that, he's just trying to guess and be right on. No, I truly believe that they are talented enough to be in a bowl game. And when I go to Big 12 Media Days, about 12 days from now, I'll be able to, see how their teams move and how the programs move and hear from their players, and then I'll know for sure after that, and seeing a little bit of fall camp. But Baylor versus Texas A&M, really sexy game. Music City Bowl, we got Illinois versus Ole Miss. I was high on Ole Miss last year, high on Illinois last year and this year. I think Illinois is a college football playoff team. I said it earlier in the opening when we were talking about Brett Bielema and the Into the News segment. Illinois is real deal. Make no mistake about it, they're real deal. This Austin Simmons kid is piquing my interest down in Oxford, Mississippi, because of course we got Oxford, Ohio as well. But he's really piquing my interest. I think that this kid can be really good, and we've seen Lane Kiffin just strike gold with quarterbacks as of recent. So interesting to see the type of success that Austin Simmons can have in that Lane Kiffin system. Duke Mayo Bowl, Florida State is in a bowl game this year versus Tennessee. Both teams have high aspirations this year. Even though Florida State only won 2 games this year, I think Tennessee, from a talent perspective, their team isn't the same. But Josh Heupel is still there. Joey Hazel, their offensive coordinator, is still there. And they still have high aspirations this upcoming season. Florida State, where do you evaluate them? Duke Mayo Bowl typically have teams with around 4 losses, sometimes 3 losses, depending on how things pan out or play out. But it'll be interesting to see. We got the Holiday Bowl, Pitt versus Washington. 2 classic programs, 2 coaches I like a lot, and Jed Fish. I think both of these teams are going to be really, really solid this upcoming year. Pitt defense is going to be real deal, especially with the kid Kyle Lewis. Pat Narduzzi, head coach of Pitt. They're going to be solid. They're going to be respectable. And I know Moon, talking to him in No Reaction Monday the other day, he said he want to see more confidence. We don't want to see Pitt being humble anymore. So it'll be interesting to see what we see out of them during ACC Media Days about a month out from now. Alamo Bowl, Kansas State versus USC. This is another game that I like a lot. Lincoln Riley versus Chris Kleiman. Avery Johnson versus Jada Maiva, however you say his name. Nice game. I'm not mad at that at all. The Pop-Tarts Bowl. SMU versus Texas Tech. That should be a high-scoring affair. Two programs we have great relationships with. The Pop-Tarts Bowl, we're going to speak to them when we see them at ACC Media Days. We'll probably see them at Big 12 Media Days, too. We got some conversations we need to have at the Pop-Tarts Bowl. If you know, bro. We just a little bit of talking we got to do. That's all. Nothing major. Real Quest Bowl, we got Indiana versus South Carolina. That's another one of those SEC Big Ten matchups. Last year we seen South Carolina versus Illinois this year. Indiana versus South Carolina. Both teams, high aspirations. South Carolina could truly make the playoff this year. They have the team to do it. They have the pieces there. Huge fan, huge believer in Shane Beamer. It'd be interesting to see where Indiana is this year. Kirk Cignetti, last year took the college football world by storm. Deserved the coach of the year nod that he was able to get last season. But do it again. Do it with, Altino Sinceri, who's down at UCLA. Mike Shanahan was calling plays anyway last year. It's just that Tino Sinceri was the passing game coordinator. New quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. Curtis Rourke is no longer there. So, it'll be interesting to see. Louisville in the Gator Bowl versus Oklahoma. Both of these teams, in bowl games. That'd be good to see. Hopefully Brent Venables is able to keep his job. Louisville is a team I got higher aspirations for. When I look at who's the second best team in the ACC, of course the first best team is Clemson. Who's that second best team? I'm looking at Louisville. And I'm looking at Louisville and saying, hey, you guys can go do something spectacular this upcoming season. I truly believe that. In the Citrus Bowl, we got Michigan versus Florida. That'll be a really nice game. Both teams higher aspirations. Florida aspirations should be in a college football playoff. If they don't make it, I think, some people naturally say, it's a tough schedule, gauntlet, all of that. No, they got the pieces to make the college football playoff. Let's stop making excuses. And in the Sun Bowl, we have Syracuse versus Washington State. So these are all of the projected bowl games. Let me see if there's any teams that immediately stick out to me that they don't have in a playoff. In a bowl game. Oklahoma State is one of them. Vandy is another one that they don't have making a bowl game this year. Who else do they have? Another team that I didn't see. I don't think Washington State was up here. It's another team I didn't see in a bowl game. Georgia State wasn't up here. Who else? Rutgers wasn't up here, so they don't got Rutgers making a playoff. Northwestern, Purdue, they're not making a playoff according to CBS. So some quite interesting teams that they didn't have on this list. So let's get into our next segment. We're going to go into a Governor Rewind, and we're going to look at the 2004 season, and we're going to truly break it down, man. So we're going to go back in time. Governor Rewind. So the year is 2004. That year, Usher dropped Confessions. As you know, the song "Yeah" is one of the most popping songs in the country. Yang Yang Twins is popping. 50 Cent is popping. Let's go back to 2004. What also happened in 2004, was a great year of college football, but I think it was a pivotal year in how our thoughts about college football changed. I really do. I can only imagine. I still think that 2007 is the greatest college football season we had. Also, this past year, 2024 will probably be up there in my top 5 as well. This 2004 season was magical, but you felt bad for a few teams. One of those teams you felt bad for was Utah, because how dominant Utah was this season. And another team you felt bad for was Auburn, because Auburn went undefeated and they weren't in a BCS national championship game. So 2004 was just really one of those years when you look at it. It was an elite year of college football, but a lot of people try to avoid it because this was the year where the BCS was broken. It really was. And we could have benefited off of having a playoff back then. I think we get a playoff this year. We might have had one of the best years of college football ever. So let's go back. We'll go back into the vault. 2004 college football season, a tale of undefeated controversy. Let's rewind the tape to 2004 year where college football's broken system was exposed for the world to see. 3 undefeated powerhouses, only 2 national title slots, and 1 historic postseason snub that still haunts the sport. So the BCS controversy, 3 unbeatens, 1 empty seat. The 2004 season ended with Southern California, Oklahoma, and Auburn all undefeated. USC 12-0. Oklahoma 12-0 were selected to play in the BCS National Championship game in the Orange Bowl, while Auburn 12-0, who had just run the gauntlet in the SEC, was left out despite a perfect record and a number 3 BCS ranking. The team, that's right, a team that beat LSU, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, didn't even get a shot at the crown. Then there's Utah, led by a young Urban Meyer and a future number 1 overall pick in Alex Smith. That team was exciting. I was watching some Utah highlights earlier. It amazes me how exciting this team was. And the Utes finished 11-0, becoming the first BCS-buster, a non-automatic qualifier conference, and blew out Pitt in a Fiesta Bowl, but never got close to the title conversation. So what's happened? So let's kind of explain the BCS system. The BCS system relied on human polls and computer rankings, and there was no playoff. The computers liked Auburn, the voters liked the tradition, and Utah was dismissed entirely. It was chaos disguised as structure. What if the 2004 season had a 12-team playoff? And then I guess we'll use last season's structure of the playoff. We won't use the current structure or the current model of the playoff, which kind of get rid of auto bids. But let's see who the auto bids were if we had a 12-team playoff right then. So USC coming out of it was called the Pac-10 back there. A lot of people remember the Pac-8. I remember the Pac-10, and then of course now we got the Pac-12. Oklahoma, Big 12. These are the Power 5 champs. Auburn, SEC. Virginia Tech, ACC. That was a really good year for Virginia Tech. Michigan, Big 10. The G5 champion would have been Utah, and I'm telling you, Utah could have went to town with a couple of these teams. They were that damn good. They could have went to town with a couple of these teams. So let's look at, so now we know who kind of the AQs are. We got the Power 5 champs, which is USC, Oklahoma, Auburn, Virginia Tech, Michigan. Top G5 champion, Utah. At-large bids, the top 6 remaining highest seeds. We got Texas at 10-1. Cal was really good that year. They had Aaron Rodgers that year. They had a kid by the name of J.J. Arrington, who was nasty. He was like that. Rushed for over 2,000 yards. Georgia 9-2. Boise State at 11-0. Damn. Louisville at 10-1 and LSU at 92. Seeds best on BCS rankings. USC, this is still based on the auto bids. So USC would have got a bye. Oklahoma would have got a bye. Auburn would have got a bye. Utah would have got a bye. And then our first round matchups would have been Texas versus Michigan. So number 12 Texas. I'm sorry, number 5 Texas versus Michigan. So Michigan would have had to travel to Austin. Then we would have had LSU versus number 6 Cal. So LSU would have had to come to Berkeley. That would have been crazy. And we'd have had number 10 Louisville having to head into Athens to play Georgia. And then we would have got a playoff game in Blacksburg. Boise State, number 9, would have had to come to Virginia Tech. That first round matchups of games would have been crazy. It really would have been. You're talking about Texas versus Michigan, LSU versus Cal, Louisville versus Georgia, Virginia Tech versus Boise State. This first round of games would have been absolutely electric. I would have loved to see this. And we got to find a way with, EA Sports got college football 26 out. They got limited roster capabilities as far as editing the rosters the way we used to. But I would love to just have those 2004 rosters of each of these teams and just simulate this joint like 20 times to see who won the most championships. I really would love to see that. So like I said, this would have been truly, truly electric. I mean, hell, so the Texas-Michigan game at Texas, I would have to edge them. LSU versus Cal, that would have been a tough one. Even though it's in Cal, I probably would have had to edge LSU. Georgia versus Louisville, give me Georgia. Virginia Tech versus Boise State, give me Boise State. So then you would just had some really ground-breaking matchups with USC, with Oklahoma, Auburn, and Utah all waiting in the second round. That would have been madness. And that would have been something that would have been fantastic to see. I truly wish we had these things. Like, if you were old enough to remember the 2004 season, what stands out most? Is it the BCS-buster Utah? Is it Auburn not getting a shot to play in a title game? Is it the way USC beat the devil out of Oklahoma to win their national championship? What stands out most to you about this season? Really, and I forgot how much quarterbacks used to be under center, and for some reason that year we had because quarterbacks typically when they're getting in their 3-step or 5-step drop, they hold the ball here. That was one of them years where Aaron Rodgers was holding the damn ball up here. Jason Campbell was holding the damn ball up here. I'm trying to remember if Alex Smith was holding the ball up here as well, but for some reason, quarterbacks was just holding the ball higher to me. I don't know if it felt higher or just because quarterbacks had them heavy-ass shoulder pads on back then. I don't know what it is, but it seemed like they were held higher. So who were the players kind of to watch back then? Let's look at the All-American team from 2004. So consensus All-American offense quarterback was Matt Leinart, deserved to be there. Heisman winner and conductor of the Trojan Machine. Adrian Peterson, running back. Adrian Peterson was different during his time in Norman. He was one of the first players I said, and maybe Jeremiah Smith is probably second on that list. But one player I seen as a true freshman, I said, yeah, he's ready for the league right now. What are we waiting for? He's a grown man. All day, Adrian Peterson is ready for the league right now. Who else? J.J. Arrington, quietly rushed for 2,000 yards. A lot of people remember Marshawn Lynch at Cal, but J.J. Arrington was nasty, dude. He was like that. Braylon Edwards. I've talked about Braylon Edwards on the show quite a lot. First Big Ten player with 3,000-yard season. Braylon Edwards was cold. All-purpose Reggie Bush. That's crazy. Defense, Derrick Johnson. Who remember Derrick Johnson from Texas, man? Derrick Johnson was nasty, man. Sideline to sideline. He was crazy. David Pollock. I think a lot of people don't know how great of a college football player David Pollock was, because some of you guys probably just know him for being on ESPN and on the show that he's on now, and he's excellent commentator. Outstanding. I really love a lot of his analysis. But he was a great college football player. He really was. I don't think a lot of people remember how good David Pollock was. And he was annoying, too, on NCAA 04. He was really annoying on that game. He was unstoppable. Carlos Rogers. Who remember Carlos Rogers? Defensive back from Auburn. He was nasty. Thomas Davis. You guys remember Thomas Davis? Played for the Carolina Panthers. Thomas Davis was nice. And the Antrell Road, Miami, was there for as well. AJ Hawk. AJ Hawk was cold in the NFL. He made the team. Mike Nugent was the kicker from Ohio State. He was on that All-American team as well. But when we think about the 2004 season, I think so many things come to mind. The first thing that comes to mind is, what if we had the college football playoff back then? Second thing that comes to mind, this is the pivotal year in us getting away from the BCS. And I think just 10 short years later, we had the inaugural 14 playoff. That's the second thing that come to mind. So like I said, the first is the what if we had the playoff? The second thing is it led us to getting away from the BCS system. And then the last thing that comes to mind for me is, what if Auburn played USC? Would they have put up a better fight than Oklahoma that year? Would Auburn have been able to compete a little bit better with USC? What if Utah was given a shot that year? I think USC was just that talented that year, and they were more focused than ever. But that 2004 season was an electrifying season of college football. Always love to take these trips down memory lane. I love the sport so damn much. But yeah, 2004, that's our Governor Rewind segment, the 2004 college football season. Just get a chance to go back. In order to know where we're going, sometimes we just got to go back. So we'll go ahead and take an ad break real quick, and then we'll be back in about a minute and a half. Y'all stay tuned. Look at you out here using all these other sports books, and you ain't even using the best one. BetUS. Get 125% match bonus when you use the promo code CFB Nation. Yeah, you heard me correctly. 125% match bonus on your first deposit using that code CFB Nation. We know that college football is in the off season, even though we don't celebrate that. CFB Nation, we do college football 24/7. But there are plenty of things for you guys to bet on.
Who will have the most wins? OKC Thunder or Cleveland Cavaliers? Can Luka and LeBron make it all mesh to make it to the play-in tournament? Maybe you're a college basketball guy ready to risk it all for Florida to make it to the big dance.
Basketball isn't for you? Maybe you're a football guy. Well, BetUS got you covered with this year's UEFA Championship. Can Liverpool or Barcelona win it all? Will Erling Haaland or Harry Kane lead their teams to victory?
May is going to get popping when the Kentucky Derby hits town. BetUS has you covered in that way too, with all major horse racing events. Point is, type in that promo code CFB Nation and go get that money.
Round the Nation. This is our Round the Nation segment, and this is the time of year where I'm always excited about college football, but I really get excited this time of year because if you're a credentialed member of the media, this is when your emails are going crazy. Like, I'm getting emails from the ACC, I'm getting emails from the Big 12, I'm getting emails from different, various HBCUs. Howard is one of them that come to mind, who I seem to get emails from daily. And this is from, different communications people. And, today, just one of those things that I feel like I won't forget. I'll remember where I was at, where we see this Big 10 and Big 12 historic partnership. Shout out to Judge Claudia Wilkin. I believe when we look at this House versus NCAA settlement and revenue sharing that, of course we feel like the sport of college football got this thing right, but I don't think that Claudia Wilkin got enough credit for how patient she was, how gracious she was, how respectful she was to each player on the team, and what, the overall roster construction looks like when you're going down from 120 players to 105 players. How do we hurt these walk-ons and these successful walk-on stories, and how we see coaches make these guys who had to pay for their education year one, then they become a scholarship player. Are those moments taken away? Claudia Wilkin truly took her time in conducting this case. She held the NCAA accountable, she had the players accountable, she held the teams accountable. I think that's important. I think one of the biggest things that she was able to do is, because at first each team had 85 scholarship players, and then your players after that, we're looking at 35 players up to are walk-ons, are players who are paying their own way to go to school, and they don't even get to travel and suit up for games. Like the Rudy movie comes to mind when you think about players of that. But the fact now we got 105 scholarship players. Claudia Wilkin did an amazing job. She wanted to protect the walk-ons. She wanted that feeling protected. She wanted these players protected. She handled things with such grace. I don't think we've given her enough credit for it. So let's look more into this partnership, how it happened, and what are some of the things we'll get out of this deal. So let's talk cash. Literal, digital, instantly accessible PayPal, Venmo cash, because the Big 10 and Big 12 just changed the game in college sports finance forever. We knew this was coming. We didn't know exactly how we would get there, but we knew where it would come in. We knew with this, July 1st deadline coming up, that teams will have to figure out a way to appropriately share revenue with players. Now, this thing won't be a huge issue for, a lot of major programs. All of the P4 programs shouldn't have any issues with it. And a good portion of the group of 5 schools who have those loyal fan bases won't have any issues with it. But there's some smaller G5 schools that we're probably worried about, what the revenue sharing thing does to a program. But the fact that, we got breaking news from Silicon Valley today. Like I said, Big 12 sent me this email right in my inbox. I'm like, yeah, we're going to change what we're going to talk about today for Around the Nation, and we're going to go to this. PayPal has announced a multi-year deal with both the Big 10 and Big 12 conferences to become the exclusive partner for institutional payments. Yes, that means revenue sharing directly to student athletes. And this is monumental. This is incredible. This means that the players shouldn't have to wait for the money. We know what those percentages look like. We know that of the revenue sharing, I think football gets a huge portion of it. Like 75% belongs to these football departments. So they're putting fans in the seats. They're the reason why these TV companies are willing to give these schools so much money. The college football altogether is a budding sport. So it's amazing that these players are getting the revenue that they deserve, because they're the reasons why people are there to see these teams play. Of course, they will probably watch the teams regardless because it's their alma mater. But, when you have a really good team and elite players, people are going to come and watch. So I think this is the infrastructure that could power the next decade of college football. So starting this summer, athletic departments in both conferences will start paying student athletes directly through PayPal. Clean, secure, trackable. Players won't be waiting for checks. They'll be getting deposits straight to their PayPal or Venmo wallets, usable instantly for tickets, textbooks, food, merch, you name it. This is incredible. So if you went to college and you got financial aid like I did, or, I don't know if you were lucky enough to be on scholarship, and I don't know if it works the same for scholarship, but, I had financial aid, and then every year we used to get something called refund checks. And refund checks essentially was the money that was kind of overpaid after your tuition and your room and board, all that paid for. You get it, and it's typically a good amount of money. And what most people did when we were young and dumb, we went and bought clothes, or, the newest system dropped, we went and got the newest system. Got the latest cell phone. Like, that's what a lot of us did with those refund checks. And if you watching this and you're laughing at it, you probably did dumb things with your refund checks as well. But, you kind of had to wait on them. You had to kind of wait for the administration to say, okay, your refund check is in. You had to go cash it, this, that, and the third. This is not like that. This is similar. It's along those lines, but this is money straight to you. Now, the only kind of question that I have, and one of the things I haven't quite connected the dots for is, how does this work with a college football playoff appearance? Is there revenue sharing for that? Because we know that the College Football Playoff Committee awards every school who participates in the college football playoff $20 million. Is that shared then? So when Nico Iamaleava and other players for Tennessee who were threatening to hold out, would they have gotten another check? So it'd be interesting to see that. So I'm glad that this is instantaneous. You get your money, you have access to your money immediately, because guess what? These players earned that money. And for years, these players have been earning this money. So this follows the NCAA court laws clearing the way for revenue sharing in college sports, and the Big 10 and Big 12 didn't want to wait. They jumped out front, partnered with the tech giant, and said, let's make it real. So anybody who knows me know I hate Cash App. I can't stand Cash App. Cash App right now can say, hey, we would like to become the official sponsor of your show. No, go that way. Seriously, go that way. No, that will never happen. I love PayPal. And PayPal ain't giving me a dime to say it, but I truly do love PayPal. I feel safe with PayPal. I've been using PayPal for years. I remember during the eBay years when I was collecting jerseys and selling jerseys. I've always felt comfortable with PayPal. I really did. So these are some of the things that we've heard from the various commissioners. Tony Petitti at the Big Ten said, we look forward to a secure, rapid, and reliable way for student athletes to receive institutional payments. Great line, well structured, succinct, to the point. Looking for a secure, rapid, and reliable way for student athletes to receive institutional payments. PayPal and Venmo are brands that I trust. I actually use both of them. I use PayPal and I use Venmo. Will never use Cash App. I promise you that. But yeah, I use both of them. Brett Yormark, this partnership will empower student athletes through a platform they already know and trust. But it goes deeper as well. So Venmo is now fully embedded into campus life. Venmo will sponsor the first ever Big 10 rivalry series, embedding itself in football and basketball events. For the Big 12, Venmo become official payments partner across all championships. That's football, basketball, and Olympic sports. Students will soon be using Venmo, not just for splitting Uber rides, but for buying tickets, gear, concessions, even tuition. This is incredible. This is major for the sport. this is what they needed. I'm glad that these two conferences got on it. They went with sources that people trust. And like I said, this is huge. And those with a Venmo debit card, they lock up to 15% cash back at national chains like McDonald's, Lyft, Walgreens, and more. So what does this mean for college football? This is bigger than just payments. This is infrastructure. This is culture. We wanted reform as it pertained to a lot of things, and revenue sharing was one of those things we wanted reform for. Was it numero uno, dos, tres, or cuatro, or even cinco? Probably not. But we knew that the players deserved some of that piece of the pie, and rightfully so. They the ones that go out on the field. They put their lives on the line every day because football is it's a serious game, bro. If you play football, even if you played it at a very low level, like pee-wee up to high school, and if you played like a skill position, you never had a concussion, you were lucky, brother. Because I know I had quite a few, and I didn't even know I had concussions until I was older. I read more about concussions, and they talk about the light. And I said, shit, I done seen that a lot. Coaches just say shake it off, and we be in the game putting our lives on the line. We didn't even know it. So I like the fact that these players are getting played. And let's be honest, some of these players aren't going to make it at the next level. This is them striking it while the iron's hot, taking this money and building future money off the money that they're getting as a student athlete. So this is very important. So these conferences get the money to their players first, and the cleanest are going to win the recruiting's arm race of the 20s, 30s. So you know how they call the 1920s the roaring 20s. I don't necessarily see it that way. I am a history buff, I will admit it. I think that the actions of the 1920s is what led to the Great Depression and the stock market crash in the 1929. I truly do believe it. I believe like our credit system was so effed up then, like anybody could get credit, bro. You can go anywhere and say, yo, can I just borrow $10,000? You ain't had to have nothing. And that's what led to the stock market crash. So when we say the roaring 20s and 1920s, I think we really meant the roaring, 2020s, because I think the way school's going to be able to allocate more money to these players, like, hey, this is what we did in TV last year. We made a college football playoff last year. So, yeah, they can probably offer you a little bit more NIL, but on the back end, you can get more money with us because of what we generate. You know what I'm saying? Now you got more ways to pitch to a student, and you can get more creative in your pitches to the student. And then you think about some of these GMs, man, somebody like a Jim Nagy or Andrew Luck, somebody that can sit down with a student and is a part of the, the entire recruiting process. It can be able to pitch to them in a different way. And this deal, it shows the Big 12 and the Big 10 are building for a pro-style ecosystem, fast deposits, trusted platforms, immediate access. Wait one goddamn minute. So, Big 10 and SEC are having a Cold War. Are we just not going to admit that they're having a Cold War? I mean, I don't know if SEC has ties with another company similar to PayPal, which doesn't allow them to be with a company like PayPal. Or maybe the SEC announced and I just didn't catch it. It's possible that they announced this agreement as well. But it was interesting that two conferences who were supposed to be in cahoots and supposed to be kind of, guiding the future of the sport together, and we'll figure out, how the college football playoff is going to look, how many conferences, what auto bids, they're getting all of that crap. You would think that it would have been like the ACC and the Big 12 making this agreement together, but the fact we're seeing a Big 10 and a Big 12, is it me being messy? Because I say, man, wait one goddamn minute now. If these two conferences are in cahoots, but they kind of beefing at the same time, like, what does this mean? Am I looking too far in this? Am I being messy? Y'all just gotta tell me. Y'all can say, man, Governor Dog, you being messy, bro. And I'd be like, all right, I probably am being a little bit messy. But, it's only right to speculate, right? Truly, it's only right to speculate. So I look at these two and I'm like, Big 12 and Big 10 are announcing something. That's interesting. That's very interesting. That's really interesting. I don't know. But I like it. I like PayPal. I like Venmo. I like the fact that these student athletes are getting the money that they need. Or professionals. Are we allowed to call them professionals now? I guess we call them professionals when we start getting salary cap and more reform. I don't know. This isn't the Wild West anymore. It is the age of digital dividend. I think it's interesting. I think players always got paid in college football. Every player had a number, I believe. The way that they got the money to them, I think they got creative about it. Maybe there were some players that didn't, get what they get. Like, think about somebody like Johnny Manziel. The way Johnny Manziel was able to kind of market himself in 2012. Think about, the different social medias we have now. Think about, what would Johnny Manziel NIL evaluation be? What would it be, truly? If Darian Mensah is getting $8 million, is it far-fetched for me to say, like, Johnny Manziel would probably got $15 million to stay in college, bro? Like, I know Johnny Manziel truly wish he can play in this era of college football. The way that kid was able to market himself, bro, Johnny Manziel would have made a killing. And I think about this revenue sharing and all of this stuff, man. Back in the day where, kids were just trying to make it. Granted, Johnny Manziel came from a family that was pretty well off, but, not all of those people are afforded those same opportunities. I just think some people who probably jumped and went to the NFL a little bit too soon could have used another year of tutelage. It makes it a little bit easier to do now. That's why I truly don't believe that Arch Manning is just going to jump at the first opportunity to go to the NFL draft, even if he's like going to be a guaranteed top 5 pick. I think if he don't like where he going and Texas or another school is willing to give that man $10 million to come back and play one more year, I think he will come back and play one more year, not just for the money, just because I feel like Arch Manning probably feels like no matter what class I go in, I'm going to be that dude. But I just think about Tim Tebow. He's another guy I think who would have made a lot of money in this era. You think about when you got a whole religious community behind you, and Tim Tebow, really is truly a Christian. Like, I think some people thought it was fake at first, but it's really who he is. You've seen his entire career. He's been able to model himself in such a positive facet. We know that he's a God-fearing man, and he's a God-fearing man before anything. Think about how much money Tim Tebow, and I'm sure he probably got a little bit of money while in college, but think about the money he truly could have made in this era of college football. Reggie Bush is another one that come to mind. And it's sad that NCAA is trying to do right and go back, I think it's till 2016 and play some of those players back. But there are some players I just think that would have gotten Desmond Howard would have got a boatload of money. Rocket Ismail being in South Bend would have got a lot of money. Eric Bieniemy being in Boulder would have got a lot of money. Peter Warwick being in Tallahassee would have got a lot of money. Michael Vick being in Blacksburg would have got a lot of money. But when I think about who would have probably been the highest paid players in this era of college football if they could have played now, Johnny Manziel is numero uno. And Tim Tebow is close though. But believe you me, Tim Tebow is definitely close. So this isn't the Wild West anymore. It's the age of digital dividend. And while the ACC and SEC, I'm not sure if they'll partner with another company. Maybe SEC is probably going to hold out and see what company, ends up, giving them the biggest bag. It'll be interesting. But I'm sure we'll hear from Greg Sankey and Jim Phillips. I don't know if ACC's, I don't think they can wait because it's July 1st deadline. So I expect to hear something from them. And if you guys have already heard something from them, don't be afraid to put it in the chat because that'd be pretty spectacular as well. But Tony Petitti and Brett Yomar, great job. I mean, to align yourselves with brands like PayPal, brands like Venmo, brands are just known for, making sure people get their money, they take good care of you. Like I said, I'm not a fan of Cash App at all. If anybody send me money, they know the last place sending it to me is Cash App because I don't have it. F Cash App. And I feel that way strongly. So this is major. So shout out to the Big 12. I'm glad that I was able to get this email in my inbox today. I was like, yeah, we're gonna make this an Around the Nation segment and talk about it in a great deal. And I'm just excited for this sport. I'm so excited for this sport. I think college football is truly going to, enter another plateau. And the fact that these players are now getting TV money, the money is real. Like, it's going to be players that, getting base play, 3-4 million. Then with revenue sharing, they can add another, 100K, 200, 300K, depending on how things break down, bro. I'm telling you, it's money in this game. It's money in this sport. I don't think there's another sport that gives you as much access as college football do. Look how many games you watch. My boy K4, shout out to K4 ratings. He's killing it right now, too. A lot of the projections and stuff he's releasing right now, I don't think there's nobody that's better in what he does than K4. But K4, every week we see him post his TVs. There's 5 television screens up, and he's watching 5 different games. He's able to do that because college football sharing is caring. But it's funny that, corporations like ESPN, who hosts the college football playoff, we can't get a daily college football show. I've said it before. And I'm going to continue to attack ESPN on this statement, bro. Like, I know a lot of people love the force-fed, good versus evil, like the first takes of the world. I'm not saying that those are bad programs. I really do respect Stephen A. Smith. I really respect what he do. But we got this beautiful sport, this growing sport. Like, put somebody like a Greg McElroy on the forefront. Stop putting people like him and Matt Berry on YouTube, bro. Put them on the main stage. They deserve to be on the main stage. College football is growing, and this is proof that it's growing. But we deserve to have a daily college football show on ESPN. Not on SEC Network. We know Paul Feinbaum is on every day on SEC Network. The structure of his show is based on entertainment. I think it's rooted in college football. Don't get me wrong. I ain't taking no dig at Paul Feinbaum. Huge fan of his. But it is also rooted in entertainment. We have people calling in. The show is hilarious. I get good laughs out of it every time I watch it. But let's be honest, ESPN. Come on, man. Same thing with I know ESPN, ABC is pretty much the same thing, but same thing with Fox. Same thing with these other networks. If CW, if college football is you eating off of college football, you eating off of this sport, man, put a show on, man. And I'm not just talking about on Saturdays, a pregame show and a postgame show. Put on the sport, bro. That's what I mean by that. I know I got a little bit of preachy there, but I don't care. As I always like to say, there are no more victories in the sport that survive in advance. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. And until next time, which will be Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will truly miss you all this weekend. You all take care. Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two
CJ
great
on
defensive
that
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the ball.